Looking forward to chatting with the assistant general manager of the San Diego Padres. Josh Stein is back with Ben and Woods here on 97.3 The Fan. Happy Friday to you, Josh.
I appreciate it. Happy Friday to you guys.
So we're, look, we win those games in San Francisco, those first two, and, we said it on Monday. You get a split on the road in San Francisco, you're pretty happy. I don't know. I didn't feel happy after the last two. Josh, it's just one of those weird things in baseball. But, I think if we've been saying all week, if we had Shildt on and said, hey, so the team's scuffling a little bit right now, I think he would have shut us down and tried to stab us through the phone.
He would have hung up immediately.
He would have hung up
immediately.
He's scuffling. We won, 4 series in a row, whatever. We split. We haven't lost the series. And, I think ultimately he's right. But from your seat, from your perspective, kind of how do you view the team right now?
Yeah, I'm with Shildt on that one. I mean, I think it's kind of like, not gonna go stab anybody, but definitely with Shildt in terms of I think just the way the team's playing and grinding through them. And I think, sometimes even when you're not playing your absolute best as a team, finding ways, to win games. And, I was up in San Francisco, every single inning, every single pitch, and teams competing, very hard. And those games, they literally come down to, play here or there. And, you get the first two and, very tight games and execution, late in games, and you get a little greedy. You think, okay, we can sweep this series or get this series, and you lose 2 tight games on the back end, but really that's I think going to be the nature of this summer, and especially in the National League West. I think there's going to be just a lot of close baseball games that are decided by a play here or there, and hopefully we're on the right end more often than not.
Yeah, and I said it this morning. Objectively, if you're just watching baseball and you're not a fan of either team, I think it's fair to say those were 4 really good games. I mean, they really were. For us as Padre fans, 2 of them didn't work out in our favor, but the brand of baseball, while it can be a little bit panic attack inducing at times, Josh. You did say, I mean, they do find ways to get it done. Where does that come from? Is that a Mike Shildt thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely Mike Shildt. It's the coaching staff. It's a and it's a player driven thing too. I think we have a lot of both veteran and young players that really are driven by winning. There's a lot of talk about the scoreboard and really playing to that and doing what the game asks in terms of, small things and little things that ultimately lead to winning. I think there's a lot of, intentional work and practice and looking at little areas of the game that, that ultimately they don't come up every day the way that maybe, pitching and hitting and defense do, but, they will show up inevitably, in a game. And if you can be marginally better than your opponent in some of these small areas, they can tend to add up. So, I think that, listen, anytime you play 1-run games, obviously there's going to be an introduction of, you can call it luck, you can call it good fortune, you can call it a lot of different things, but I think there's definitely a belief that if we are buttoned up organizationally and in terms of some of the small things and how we do that, we're going to be tilting the odds in our favor. And I think that is a big part of what Mike brings to the big league team.
Talking to Padres assistant general manager Josh Stein, and a couple of weeks ago, AJ Preller joined us, and he said, "Yeah, we are definitely looking to add, possibly in left field." And I doubt anything's changed in the last couple of weeks. We did have one of our friends, Dennis Lynn, threw some heat on the fire on Monday with a report about Jarren Duran and interest there. I don't need to specifically ask you, about Jarren Duran, because I know at this time of the year, secrecy is of the utmost importance. But when names get thrown out in public like that, how does it affect your and AJ's job in terms of how you're going about this time of year during the trade deadline season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I think almost it's really been I would say the entirety of AJ's time. It feels like the Padres, started, having their names associated with more and more players. And sometimes there's truth and kernels of truth. Sometimes it's older information. But I feel like, the Padres are interested in player X, really has it's grown a ton in the last 10 years. So does it affect things? Not really. I think you have to inevitably answer a few questions, in the immediate aftermath of something like that, not just from, the public, but internally, players, coaches, things like that. But, it doesn't have a big, impact in terms of the actual discussions or anything like that.
Talking to Josh Stein here on Ben and Woods this morning. Could you tell us, what does the market look like now? I mean, back in the day, it was typically, you wait till July and kind of assess where you are. We've seen AJ make aggressive moves. And look, I don't think it'd be, I think it's fair to say that this team's got some needs, as a lot of teams do. Certainly, a lot of teams looking for pitchers, a lot of teams looking for bullpen help. I think, there's a couple of areas, the San Diego Padres, maybe the catching position, the left field position, as Ben mentioned. How does the market look right now? Is it active? Are there other GMs being active as well right now?
Yeah, I think this is typically, even if trades don't get made until July, I'd say, this is, in my experience, you kind of get through Memorial Day, and obviously at different times we've made trades, in advance of that, but typically kind of teams will get through Memorial Day and really assess, the needs of their team and, kind of the competitive state of their team, and really start to assess the trade market. So, yeah, I think those conversations have begun. I think that, it's hard to say if it's going to be, active before July. But certainly, I think it's, we're in a time in baseball where there's a lot of competitive teams, a lot of teams that, feel like they're in a window to win and competing for, what is now more wild card spots. So that tends to lead to a pretty active trade market.
Josh, Manny Machado hit his 350th career home run yesterday. And in many ways, at age 32, Manny is as good or better than he has ever been right now. And, conversely, Xander Bogaerts has not produced the way that he did in Boston since he arrived in San Diego. You were around for both Manny's contract, his extension, Xander's contract. How do the Padres, how do you guys try to project how a player's going to perform as they age? Like, looking at crystal ball in the future and go, I think this guy is going to be, okay for years to come, or I'm a little worried about whether this guy, is going to be able to keep it going deep into his career. How do you kind of evaluate those projections?
Yeah, great question. And again, a lot of what you're looking at is is past performance, and certainly trying to contextualize that and look at the totality of that past performance. But that's going to be, is going to be a large part of any kind of projection, kind of going forward. And then, I think we're also looking at, the skill sets that these players bring to the table and how those skill sets specifically, tend to age. Obviously looking at, physical aspects of their game, their athleticism, their defensive ability, their base running ability. So there's a lot of different, kind of components you're gonna take into account. Obviously, the bat is the one that, that's going to get the most focus in terms of kind of production. As largely it should, but there's also components defensively and from a base running standpoint that we're always looking at as we make these kind of decisions.
And I have to imagine makeup of the person is a lot too, and I know that's been a focus. You guys want to bring in good makeup guys that need to come into the system and buy in right away. We've had that, and we haven't always. Even since Ben and I started covering the team, it's only been 7 short years, but you can see the makeup of the player in San Diego has changed. And I think that's a testament to what the work you guys have done. And Xander has that makeup. There's no question. I mean, he's absolutely got that makeup. I think defensively this year, he's been good. He's been a good defender at shortstop. And, obviously his health, how is he feeling right now? Do you guys expect him back soon? Is this going to be, something that nags or lingers for weeks at a time?
Yeah, I mean, not with the team currently, so hard to say today. I mean, I think it's been a minor issue that he's been kind of dealing with, and obviously it started barking a little bit, the last couple of days, and obviously was down yesterday with the left shoulder, and But Xander, I mean, look, that's part of, you talk about makeup, you talk about, what someone brings, every single day to the clubhouse in terms of, mentality and engagement, with his teammates and, and then, taking the field and playing a premium position, being a threat on the bases. And those are all components that, that Xander Bogaerts brings, even if the bat is, is not exactly where, he wants it to be and we expect it to be. So, hopefully we get Xander back in the lineup today. I haven't seen the lineup yet. I know that it's a day-to-day thing, and he was needed yesterday down, but it's not something that I think we're overly concerned about at this point.
Josh, we've followed Yu Darvish's, recovery very closely and just know his story, and we respect you immensely. So we know that he's going to, get back whenever he can. But from an organizational perspective, I think he's scheduled to throw another bullpen today or tomorrow. How confident are you that Yu Darvish is going to be contributing to the Padres in a meaningful way this season?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly confident. I mean, I think you can never
Sure.
Guarantee anything with pitching and with arms and elbows, but again, a lot of it has to do with the trust in the individual, and and obviously have a lot of faith in you, to be both very cognizant of what's going on with his body, but also to push and understand kind of where he's at and where we're at. And I think that he's doing all those things very appropriately in this process. And I think we got kind of built up and close to a point where we were getting nearer and nearer to kind of his debut this season, and unfortunately had to back off. But again, I think that we're starting that ramp up process again, and the hope is he will be able to pitch in the second half of the season for us.
Because you and AJ have to be pretty honest with yourselves, because if you're overconfident on a guy and he doesn't produce, you need to address those issues possibly with acquisitions. So I'd imagine that's something that you have to always take pretty clean and hard looks at during the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately our jobs, right? Is to provide depth, whether you ultimately need it or not. And I think that so whether it's Yu Darvish or really anyone, and specifically any starting pitcher or pitcher on the team, you're hoping for the best, but you have to be planning always for contingencies and understanding that that you may be reaching into that more so than maybe you'd hoped.
Josh, really appreciate it. Good luck to the Padres in Milwaukee this weekend, and then back for the first three against the Dodgers.
Woo-hoo.
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We got some tickets to give away coming up here soon as well. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it.